Hello everyone, welcome to Tencer Yoga. Today I thought we'd do something a little bit different, and instead of a practice, we're gonna have a chat. You may have been reeled into watching this because of the title of the video, which is Why Yoga on YouTube Sucks. Now, I confess, I don't think yoga on YouTube actually sucks. I do, however, think that there are some limitations to practicing yoga with the medium of YouTube. And I also feel that sometimes it can get misconstrued. There can be a bit of a disconnect between, whether it's teacher and student, or just maybe the expectations that students have with working with yoga via YouTube. And so what I thought I would do is unpack that a little bit in this video and also share with you a very practical strategy. Okay, so you gotta stick around until the end of the video. And I'm gonna share with you some tips, a practical strategy for how you can really get the most out of your YouTube yoga practice. Okay? Now, before we get started, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, go ahead and do that. Just click the subscribe button. You can click the bell, get notified when I upload new videos. I'm working towards, that's what I've been doing, is releasing a new practice or chat, this is a new thing here, once a week. Okay, and typically they get released on Mondays. So just click below and let's stay connected in that way. Okay, here we go. So as I mentioned, I feel like there are some misconceptions, a bit of a disconnect in terms of yoga on YouTube and the dynamic between the student and the practices that are available. And I think some of this stems from the distinction between a practice and a sequence. Now, often these terms are used interchangeably, but if you think of it, if you let those phrases, a practice, a yoga practice, and a yoga sequence, just kind of land on you, I think you'll realize, I think it's, it makes sense that they're quite different. They are not actually the same thing. Okay, so now yoga itself is a practice, and people who practice yoga are yoga practitioners. What you find on YouTube are sequences. Okay, now I have, for example, on my channel, Iyengar Yoga for tight hips, Iyengar Yoga for lower back pain. These are all different sequences. Now, when you're practicing, you may engage in a sequence that can be part of your practice, but it's kind of not enough in a way, because in order for a sequence to really fill you up, right? To really, how should I say, like, to be meaningful in your personal yoga practice, it's personal. Like that's the key. Right? The sequence has to be personal to you. And on YouTube, because it's this one-way experience where the teacher who's teaching, myself in this example, doesn't know or see the bodies who are receiving the sequence, I'm unable to provide personalization, right? So, I do the best I can and I may show some options. But really, there's a big responsibility on the practitioner to personalize their yoga practice. And this is, it's not an easy thing to do. And in many ways, it's a muscle that needs to be exercised and trained, right? How do you personalize your yoga sequence so that it can be a true yoga practice. Now, before I sort of go any further with how to personalize your yoga practice, I want to give you an example of what I mean by a sequence versus a practice. Like just kind of these few ideas that I'm throwing out at you, give you an example. So take, for example, yoga for stress. All right, let's just say you're feeling a little bit stressed out and you're going to search for yoga for stress. I suspect that if you type that into YouTube, you will find a collection of sequences, many of which include restorative poses. Okay, and by restorative poses, it might be lying over a bolster in different variations in different ways. Maybe some forward bending asanas, forward bending poses. I think this is quite common. Now, when I think back to how I began yoga, and I remember the early practices that I did, restorative practices, these were very challenging for me. They often incorporated long holdings and a lot of props, that could be a bit tedious, or I was uncertain about them. And quite frankly, positions that were pretty hard on my body. I wasn't so comfortable in many of those positions. So between all that, the long holdings, being asked to stay still for an extended period of time, and the prop setups and the physical aspect of the poses, I did not find them particularly relaxing. In fact, I felt fairly agitated often throughout the practice and after the practice. Now, in contrast to that, if you were to put me in a series of inversions, okay, headstand, shoulder stand, and all the variations in between, some supported variations of those poses as well, I would be in my happy place. Yeah, my nervous system would settle and it felt good. And I would know instantly. Okay, so I guess the point that I'm making is that I needed to understand, right? I needed to have a level or a degree of self-awareness to understand that to reduce my stress, just because for many people, lying over a bolster will help, will settle them, doesn't mean that it's true for me, right? So I had to learn to settle my nervous system. I would do much better with a sequence involving supported inversions. Some supported, some not supported, but inversions really do it for me. That's what I mean about personalizing your yoga practice. And that's what I mean about the limitations of yoga on YouTube. Because again, you can search, but still you have to have the skill, the personal skill within, to then determine whether that sequence is actually right for you. Yoga is ultimately personal. I keep saying that, but it's very personal. And it's also really empowering. It's empowering. Having at your disposal the tools through yoga to be able to respond to yourself and grow is huge. It's amazing. And I mean, I feel so fortunate, I feel so inspired that I can have that type of relationship with my yoga practice. That relationship didn't come, off the bat. I didn't come to the practice with a huge amount of, body awareness necessarily, or self-awareness, but it's been cultivated over time. And some of the work that went into that was certainly on my part as a practitioner, exploring and engaging, studying, and some of it came with the guidance of a teacher, and that has been really, really helpful. Okay, but there's always a balance. There's a balance between learning from a teacher and finding a teacher who can guide you along your path to develop those tools versus studying with a teacher who's going to insist you do things a certain way just because, right? There is a difference there. And I think it's really important just to make mention of that so that your yoga is your yoga. Don't give it up. Don't give up your agency on the mat to anybody. Okay? Guidance is wonderful. And there's so many amazing teachers out there to learn from. So I encourage you to do that. But take everything in through the lens of your own experience. Okay? And that brings us to the practical strategy that I want to share with you in order to help you train the muscle of developing this type of sensitivity, this awareness. Okay, so that ultimately you can really get, just a ton from this resource of yoga on YouTube, which is amazing. I mean, there's an amazing aspect to it, but I want you to use it with discernment. Okay? Viveka. All right. Okay. The first thing I want you to do is have a notebook. Okay? It can be a tablet, it can be an actual paper notebook, but have like your own yoga journal. Okay? Something where you can record a few notes. And before you practice, I want you to take stock of 3 things. Okay? What is the state of your body? What is the state of your breath? And what is the state of your mind? Okay, so when you don't need to write a lot, it can be just a couple words, answer. And when you're reflecting on, okay, what is the state of my body right now? Maybe you might say something like, I feel stiff, I feel loose, I feel heavy, light. There's an area in the body that's paining me. I don't know how I feel. My shoulders are tight, or I don't feel really anything. I feel fine. I feel great. Whatever. Just try to observe, and again, it's a training, it's a practice, so you want to tune into some of the nuances that are going on. So record that. Then when you're observing your breath, same thing. As you approach your practice, what is your breath like? Is it smooth? Is it rough? Do you find that the breath is shallow or deep? Just check it out. Okay, and again, record it. And then finally, your state of mind. Okay, so as you approach the practice, what is your state of mind? Are you stressed? Are you thinking of a million different things? Are you feeling like, I really don't have time to practice, but I'm gonna do it anyway? Are you worried about a family member? Are you, are you excited, anxious, happy, nervous? Well, I don't know. Right? But make a note or 2 over your general state of mind. Okay, then do your practice. Now, whatever it is, it can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, it can be an hour or more. Whatever your practice is, do it. Okay? Then, at the end of your practice, again, those 3 questions. What is the state of your body? What is the state of your breath? And what is your state of mind? Okay, and write it down. Now also make a note of what you practiced. Okay, and you can go into whatever level of detail you are comfortable doing. Okay, so if you want to write out the whole sequence that you practice, the names of the poses, go ahead. If you did a practice via YouTube, you could maybe just write down the title of the video and whatever. You can always go back and check it. Maybe you worked on forward bending, maybe you were trying to work on Urdhva Dhanurasana or your full arm balance. Just write down a few just something to give you a little reminder of what the flavor of the practice was. Got it? And that's it. And do this every day, or excuse me, every time you practice, which I like to practice every day. So, and I think you will find it very interesting. Okay, over time, when you look back, you will start to see patterns. Okay, you'll start to see patterns emerge. How different poses, families of poses, categories of poses start to affect you. And what types of, maybe you'll find certain practices leave you feeling uplifted, so some practices make you feel calm and restored. Again, I can't say exactly what it will be, but I trust that you will, if you stick with this, develop some patterns and not conclusions, but insights. You will develop some insights. And this is gold. This is amazing, right? This kind of feedback on your own experience on the mat can then can be funneled into the decisions you make about future practices. And that's how you personalize your yoga practice. Okay? Literally, add just a couple minutes of time to your practice to do this before and after. It's hugely satisfying. I love it. I love it. I think this aspect to the practice is fascinating. So I really do encourage you to give this a go, and I'd be really curious to know how you make out. I think it's interesting to share with one another some of the insights. I think we can learn from one another, so please, if you feel at all inclined, please share. You can share in the comments, that would be lovely. Or keep it to yourself, that's also just fine, right? You can share with me maybe how this experience was for you. Okay, I'd be interested to know. So that's what I've got for you today. I hope that you found something interesting and hopefully useful in this little chat. Once again, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. Just click the button below and show your support. Okay, we'll continue onward. I'll be releasing new videos. I feel hesitant to say every week, but I am aiming for every week, and we'll do a collection of asana practices as well as the occasional chat. So thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you to everybody who has been commenting on previous videos. I really enjoy connecting with you, and I'm really enjoying, unpacking this medium and figuring out how we can use it to do some meaningful practice together. So once again, thank you. Have a wonderful day.